Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Talentful webinar. It's great to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about a topic on everyone's lips, the future of work. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know this session is being recorded. So no need to take any notes, as the recording will be up on Talentful's website tomorrow. If you'd like to ask any questions, please add these to the Q&A function, and we'll aim to answer as many as we can at the end. So let's start with some introductions. Hello, I'm Jamie, and I'm one of the talent directors at Talentful. I joined the business in 2017, and I partner with a global portfolio of our clients. My role is to be a strategic partner to my clients, and ensuring that we deliver against our hiring goals, as well as identifying opportunities for value-add projects.
Hi, I'm Deb, and I'm also a talent director, and I joined Talentful in January this year to lead a team of consultants across both enterprise and startup clients. My experience spans agency, RPO, and in-house across fast-paced companies, and most recently I worked for Groupon. And now let me give you a brief intro into Talentful, because we might be new to some of you. We describe our services as flexible, scalable, and bespoke recruitment for ambitious tech companies. We were founded in 2015, and since then we have built a 200+ strong team of talent experts, implementing proven recruitment techniques to process reviews, workforce planning, employer brand content, and diversity workshops. We operate across EMEA and the US, with teams in London, Berlin, and Stockholm, as well as San Fran, Boston, and Austin.
Cool. So what are we covering today? We will reflect on how COVID has impacted organizational culture, employee experience, and talent acquisition. We'll also be looking at what employees and job seekers are looking for from employers as offices and workplaces reopen. We'll look at what businesses are doing now and in the near future to help re-engage their current workforce, as well as attract and retain future talent. And finally, we'll be giving you some actionable tips on building, enhancing, and maintaining a strong company culture as your organization adapts to new ways of working. Cool. So as part of our research and preparation for this webinar, Talentful surveyed 250 people on the topics we're covering today. The audience demographic are based in the UK, between the ages of 18 and 65, and are in full-time employment. They are working within the technology and internet industries and are 50% male and 50% female. We've used the survey results along with gaining insights from our client base, hours of research to produce a webinar that is comprehensive and will hopefully support your business as you navigate the future of work. So COVID-19 has accelerated the evolution of work, proving that the vast majority of employees can operate effectively from anywhere. So now the future of work is here. What's next for talent acquisition? We have all been personally impacted by COVID, but today we want to reflect on how COVID has impacted organizational culture, remote working, productivity, employee experience, and talent acquisition. So let's start by defining organizational culture and what it means for employees and candidates. Company culture is your business's genetic code. It's defined by the collective behavior of your employees, the way they act, the way they work, and this is brought to life through your company's values and mission. There's so many components that impact company culture, from benefits and perks to the work environment and how people feel about the work they do. And under normal circumstances, company culture is often slow to evolve. However, we've all had to almost overnight shift from our normal ways of working into a fully remote world. And this sudden change initially had a negative impact on us. And some companies were ill-equipped and underprepared and did not have the right processes and technology in place to maintain and nurture their company culture.
Lockdown. So if you worked for Google, where every employee was given $1,000 to kit out their home office, then your setup probably looked something like this. However, for the rest of us, the reality looked more like this. Lockdown has also impacted our ability to socialise with friends and colleagues. Back in May 2020, O2's The Flexible Future of Work found 30% of employees felt lonely while working from home, and 26% missed informally socialising with colleagues. These findings also highlight the challenges facing companies with a suddenly remote and dispersed workforce. The office buzz, the bouncing ideas off one another, and the energy of a once thriving workplace is hard to recreate virtually. We are in danger that instead of learning to work from home, we will end up learning to live at work. For me, this quote highlights that the lines are now blurred. Before COVID-19, the boundaries between our home life and our work life were clearly defined. But now both worlds have collided, causing a negative impact on employee experience. So why is employee experience so important? Starting when a candidate engages with your brand and all the way through to when they leave your company, employee experience encapsulates everything an employee thinks, feels, and sees. Your company's physical workspace, culture, and technology are all important components. A positive experience makes happy employees, which not only builds a stronger work culture, but also impacts business performance. Over the last year, managers and HR teams, probably without any additional training, are being called upon to coach and support their teams on non-work issues. Everyone was facing new challenges, and those challenges were different for everyone. Fear of catching COVID, living in a vulnerable household, fear of redundancy, being furloughed, loss of normality and routine. Priorities changed, businesses focused on survival rather than the development of their people.
Cool. So as part of our survey, we asked, how has working remotely impacted your company culture and your ability to connect with work colleagues? 85% of people responded that there had been no change or it was positively impacted. Out of those 85%, the top 3 things that have impacted this change are having the right technology in place, strong leadership, and an increase in online activities. Secondly, we looked at how productivity has been impacted by working at home. Interestingly, only 1/4 of the people surveyed didn't experience a change in productivity by working from home, whilst 62% saw a moderate or strong positive impact. And even this quote from Mark Zuckerberg highlights how people have been more productive working at home than people would have expected. Some people thought that everything was just going to fall apart, and it hasn't. A lot of people are actually saying that they're more productive now.
The impact of COVID-19 on talent acquisition has been immense. The job market faced huge uncertainty. Millions of workers were furloughed, hundreds of thousands of roles were made redundant, and thousands of businesses went bankrupt. All interviews were moved online, forcing hiring managers and candidates to make hiring and career decisions without ever meeting face-to-face. And the shift was made from phone to utilising such technology as VC, AI, and WhatsApp to connect with candidates. Everyday life has been turned upside down and has forced us to reconsider what is really important to us. People's relationship with work has changed. 59% of survey respondents said they are slightly and much more likely to consider leaving their current role now compared to pre-COVID. Proving we can work remotely has also enabled us to work from anywhere. A UK Economic Outlook report from PwC in January 2021 said, city dwellers are now rethinking their living situations in light of the pandemic and re-evaluating the importance of larger homes, green spaces, and connections with the local community. And as a result, the population of London could fall in 2021 for the first time in 30 years.
So what else has impacted talent acquisition? With the furlough scheme introduced at the beginning of lockdown, many people were uncertain about the security of their jobs post-furlough. And for those not furloughed, there was still the same amount of work, but now less people to do it. Recruiters experienced thousands of applications for jobs, which would only have attracted a handful of applications before the pandemic. The Independent reported that the most popular role was an entry-level position as a paralegal, which received over 4,000 applications. And these changes are here to stay. According to LinkedIn, 81% of talent professionals agree that virtual recruiting will continue post-COVID, and 70% of talent professionals say virtual recruiting will become the new standard.
So on to the next section, where will we be exploring what employees and job seekers are looking for as workplaces reopen. Candidate sentiment, flexibility and transparency, work-life balance, inclusive culture, and reward and recognition. So let's look at some of the results from our survey. Approximately 62% of people surveyed are happy in their role, but open to a conversation if something interesting comes along. So what does that mean for you as leaders? Firstly, employee engagement is key. You want to ensure that when one of your employees is contacted on LinkedIn, there is nothing that a potential employer could offer that you are not currently doing. How often are you surveying your employees? What action are you taking off the back of the results? And more importantly, how are you communicating these changes to the business? As part of our survey, we also asked, what would most attract you to a new employment opportunity? The people surveyed were able to select their 3 preferred options, and the highest ranking results are monetary benefits, better work-life balance, the choice to work from home or the office.
So what are some of the things you can do? So first is monetary benefits. And research shows that job adverts displaying salary information receive up to twice the number of applications. You'll also be giving a clear message about your company culture. You'll make the hiring process easier for everyone involved, and you'll certainly stand out from the crowd. In second place, highest on our survey was work-life balance. And over the last year, business leaders have an increased responsibility to be deliberate and explicit about expectations of availability and to define exactly what business hours means for your company. You have an opportunity to make company culture much more supportive of employees' work-life balance. And yes, despite all the talk before COVID, the pandemic has shown that work-life balance is more important than ever. Research shows that working more hours doesn't necessarily increase our productivity. In fact, it's often the reverse. Studies indicate that after 50 hours of work a week, productivity starts to decline.
And third highest on our survey was being able to work from home and in the office. Remote working is no longer a perk, it's now what candidates expect. According to FlexiJobs survey, 58% of workers said they would absolutely look for a new job if they cannot continue remote work. For that reason, you need to be upfront about your remote work policies. It's likely you'll get asked questions about them during the interview process. If your policies are still a work in progress, be open about that. And if your company has a good reason for not allowing remote work, you need to communicate that too. Another important factor is how people are feeling. Over 50% of people surveyed are nervous and worried about returning to the office, with 16% being indifferent. As a leader, you need to ensure the office space is ready, it's safe, and for people's voice to be heard if they are concerned about returning to the office in these uncertain times. There's no surprise here that people's main reason for wanting to return to the office is to socialise with colleagues. This makes it even more important to communicate the purpose of returning to the office, even if it's only one day a week, make it count.
So next we're going to look at interview and candidate experience, which is still as important as ever. It's best practice to treat candidates like you would your customers. A survey by researchers at Brandon Hall found that 73% of companies thought providing a positive candidate experience was important. However, less than half of those surveys felt they currently offered candidates a positive interview experience. So what are candidates looking for? According to this survey by HRD, they are looking for a smooth and efficient interview process, feedback on interview performance so they know what they should improve on, as well as honest and excellent communication throughout the process. Interestingly, less than 8% of people said that a tour of a company's office space was important. Employees want to work for companies that share their values, and companies can no longer be silent on major cultural and political issues. According to Gartner's research, 74% of employees expect their employers to become more actively involved in the cultural debates of the day. In addition, many employees believe it's not enough for companies to issue statements about their stances, but actively find ways to act on these issues.
Diversity and inclusion. So according to our survey results, nearly 16% of respondents said that a diverse and inclusive environment would attract them to a new job opportunity. But candidates are also looking for transparency when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Job seekers are able to see past simple statements and are looking for businesses that are proactive. Publishing data of the results of your DE&I efforts will give you a great opportunity to capture candidates' attention and will also drive employee engagement and retention.
And finally, COVID impacted every business in some way. Some businesses struggled, others thrived, and some companies restructured and changed the way they operate entirely. Proactively communicating your company's response to COVID is an opportunity to engage job seekers, whether this was good or bad, but more importantly, what you have learned. Chances are some job seekers will ask these questions during their interview process anyway. This is a great way of being transparent of how COVID has shaped your business in the new normal.
Moving on to our third section, what are businesses doing now? We're going to take a look at work from anywhere, the future of the office, employee engagement and recognition, and retention.
Cool. So the first example is from Spotify, who introduced a work from anywhere program in February this year. Spotify's new policy called My Work Mode offers more flexibility to their employees, as well as flexibility when it comes to work location. Their employees are able to work full-time from the office, from home, or a combination of the two. And the exact mix of home and office work is a decision each employee and their manager make together. Spotify also introduced more flexibility when it comes to what country and city each employee works from. However, there are obviously some limitations around time zones and regional entity laws. In their HR blog, Spotify described this new policy as a great advantage and jewel in our talent acquisition crown.
There's many examples of firms who have confirmed they will not be returning to the office full-time post-COVID, which includes the likes of British Airways, Salesforce and Slack. As firms navigate the return to work, employees will question the purpose. Resignal, a content marketing agency, are changing the way they work, and rather than work from home Wednesday, this is now the day they all come into the office to collaborate and share ideas. They have started with a slowly phased back approach of 1 day a week while keeping it optional for the team.
And here are a couple more examples. So Starbucks have has announced that it's expanding mental health benefits to include up to 20 sessions for all employees. And GitLab have adopted a virtual coffee break, which helps to recreate those water cooler moments whilst giving employees the opportunity to socialize and feel connected. It's really important to schedule regular time for non-work discussions to check in.
According to Gallup research, 65% of employees haven't received any form of recognition for good work over the last year. A few examples to rectify this easily: you can set up a kudos Slack channel, celebrate successes at all hands, in team meetings, or individually in one-to-ones. Ensure your virtual door is always open, and it's the little things that go a long way, like a virtual card to say thanks. Recognized employees are more engaged and likely to stay longer. LinkedIn achieved a 96% retention rate for employees who receive 4 or more awards. Among new hires, retention rates are nearly 10 percentage points greater for employees who receive 4 or more awards.
Cool, so this is our final section, and we're going to talk through some actionable tips around company culture and communication, collaboration and inclusivity, company-wide initiatives, access to leadership, L&D, well-being and mental health, and then finally, flexible working policies. But let's start with why company culture is so important. According to a Glassdoor report in 2019, 56% of employees find a good workplace culture to be more important than salary.
Okay, everyone, grab a pen and paper. A quick exercise for you all. I want you to write down your company values. You've got 10 seconds and the time starts now. Jamie, that means you too.
Okay, I'll give it a go. I definitely don't know them all.
Right. How many did you all remember? Did you get them all right? Could you define each one if we were to ask you? It does beg the question, how well do people in your business truly know and understand your values? Think of all the new people who have joined your company this year. Are your values in the forefront of their minds? Here's a few ideas of how to cement your values and to create an inclusive company culture. Incorporate your values in every part of the process, from your website and social media to interviewing and beyond. Bring your values to life visually. Break people into groups and the medium is their choice. A movie board, Lego, clay, or even a slide deck. Is there a book or podcast that captures your culture? Share it with your team and open up the discussion. Recognition scheme. If you don't have one in place, it's easy to set up employee awards to recognize those living and breathing your values. Shout outs in all hands, on Slack and in team meetings. You can set up a recognition channel on Slack or email. Gifts to recognize great work. These don't need to be extravagant and could even be company swag.
So one of the biggest obstacles to remote culture is communication. With distributed teams working from different locations, it's easy for things to go amiss. However, investing more time and following up are simple fixes, and creating a communication policy could be a great way to ensure everyone knows what is expected of them. For example, Slack is used for day-to-day chat, but email is used for more formal communication. You can also set out expectations around response timeframes and chat and email etiquette. Setting communication standards will prevent people from being barraged with messages, reduce interruptions, and make communication easier. Because we've been unable to meet our teams face to face, it doesn't mean that one-to-one time has become less important. In fact, the opposite is true. Dedicating more time to one-on-ones, increasing their frequency, and giving people the option to walk and talk rather than being on another Zoom call will promote communication and collaboration. And another idea could be to introduce a company-wide newsletter that doesn't have to be owned by the people team. It could be a cross-functional effort where different teams each week or each month contribute, showcasing and celebrating success from all corners of your business. And this is a prime example where you don't all need to be in the same room to do it.
Collaboration and inclusivity. Create and harness an online experience which matches or surpasses that of an office environment. The purpose is to encourage collaboration and inclusivity through company-wide initiatives, access to leadership, and L&D. How do you create those water cooler moments in a virtual environment? We recently introduced Unlock, which is like speed dating. You have 5-minute chats with your colleagues before moving on to the next one. Company-wide initiatives. While socializing is important, these events should be voluntary and the activities varied. Online socials and events from quizzes to drag queen bingo. Online clubs. Art Club is a really popular one at Talentful, and we meet once a month and all create a work of art. Other examples are running club, book club, and Netflix club. Sharing content to raise awareness and further educate employees on such things as Pride Month and Black History Month, doing this virtually via Slack, email, and online events. If you can land a guest speaker, that goes down well.
Cool. So in this new virtual world, how much exposure do your employees have to the leadership team? So you can look by introducing a regular all hands. Whilst it's great to see the senior leaders presenting, give different teams a slot to showcase their achievements and give employees the opportunity to ask their leaders questions. You can implement a monthly virtual coffee morning for new joiners to hear from the leadership team. And if you have a formal induction program, get your leaders involved. Even a quick hello can go a long way.
Learning and development. At Talentful, we hold Talent Day once a month, which is a day dedicated to learning. It was a huge effort by our people team to make this work online, but the investment in this has driven employee engagement. Lunch and Learns. This could be weekly or monthly and led by a group or individual, and the topic doesn't need to be work related. Slack channels, make them fun. One of our channels is called Weekly Challenge, where each week we need to post a different picture based on the challenge. I love getting an insight into my colleagues' lives, most of whom I've never met. Technology has been a huge enabler for remote working. However, the negative impact of all interactions being online has led to Zoom fatigue. I just survived another Zoom meeting that could have been an email, one of the best memes of 2020. Most of us have experienced Zoom fatigue over the last year, and there is no doubt that it is real and growing. Over 92% of participants recognized feeling fatigued and tired after a video conference, according to a study on video conference fatigue.
And as well as Zoom fatigue, the pandemic has been catastrophic for many people's mental health and well-being, and employers are striving to empower their employees to cope with uncertainty. Consider providing a supportive and compassionate environment that encourages open dialogue about mental health. This is the first step to ensuring your employees feel comfortable talking about their mental health at work. During Stress Awareness Week, Talentful introduced a weekly well-being hour where we encouraged our employees to step away from their laptops and do something that positively impacted their well-being, like going for a walk, doing a home workout, or reading a book. We also set up a Slack channel where everyone could share what they have been up to during their well-being hour and encourage their colleagues to take time away from their desks too. And because of the success of this, we've decided to continue this initiative indefinitely. As part of our survey, we asked, how has your well-being been impacted by working at home? And roughly 60% of people said they've experienced a moderate or strong positive impact on their well-being whilst working at home. And this indicates that employees are making the most of the opportunity to work from home and focus on their well-being. Well-being and mental health is a shared responsibility between employee and employer, but there are many things within a company's control that can positively impact your employees' health by introducing policy changes, including flexible working hours, no meeting days, and if your budget allows, provide a monthly well-being allowance or budget for employees to ergonomically set up their home offices. It's easy to offload all of the responsibility of these changes onto your people team, but the truth is HR leaders are also feeling lost and overwhelmed, just as other employees are. It is the responsibility of every leader in your business to step up and provide support where they can.
When returning to working in the office, what more could your company do to support your well-being? In these uncertain times, employees are looking to their employers for direction and guidance. A flexible working policy is intrinsic to employee engagement and retention. So, flexible working policies. This is a hot topic right now with companies trying to navigate their way through its complexities. Employees want to have their voices heard, so seek to understand what is most important to them to ensure your business successfully transitions into the future of work. There are so many pros and cons to remote, hybrid, or in-office model, an in-office model, and you need to consider what is best for your business and, more importantly, your people. After all, we hear from businesses so often that their people are their greatest asset. Also, if you can, establish core working hours. With everyone working remotely and in different time zones, it's really important to set the expectation that responses will not be instantaneous, even on Slack. Boomerang on Gmail is a great tool for delaying emails, and if you're working late, you can set the time to be more palatable for the recipient.
So we've come to the end of the webinar, and before we move to question time, we hope there's been a few good takeaways and some food for thought. The last 18 months has seen us take a quantum leap in how we work, and we're super excited to see how the future of work continues to evolve. The decisions that you make for your company over the next few months will have a long-term impact on your company culture, your employee experience, your ability to attract and retain talent, and also the success of your business.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the Q&A section.
Cool.
What have we got?
Cool. So should our approach to transitioning our people back to work be done on a case-by-case, personalized basis, or a one blanket rule for everybody? So yeah, it's a good question.
It is good, yeah.
I think that it's a bit of all of those things, I would say. I think when you're looking at producing your policy, I think that you should be looking at the demographic of your workforce and understanding how different people are going to be impacted differently by the policies that you're putting in place. And if you can identify that there are individuals that will be impacted differently, then obviously having a conversation with those people to understand how they are feeling about these policy changes, and seeing whether there's anything that you can put in place or do differently to support them returning to the office, I think would be a good approach.
Yeah, I definitely think you need to look at it on a case by case to really understand people's personal circumstances.
Cool.
What would be your biggest tip for onboarding remote employees effectively and ensuring they are engaged? That's a really great question.
Well,
yeah,
you onboarded remotely, right?
I did earlier this year in January. And I'm not just saying this, it really was an excellent experience. And I think if I reflect as to why I found it to be such a great experience, I think, firstly, I got sent some swag, which is always nice. My lovely MacBook Air arrived in plenty of time for my first day. I received an email with my induction plan with all of the people that I would be meeting. Monday morning, the first meeting was with IT, which, he helped to set me up on all the systems. And I think, to have access to your email, to Slack, to everything that you need to be done on the very first morning is fantastic. And then I also think, it was my first week, we had a social online, which was super fun. And although every interaction was online, I really felt part of the Talentful community.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
What else have we got?
What else? What would you recommend if a team or individual refuses to go back to the office?
Yeah, it's kind of,
as we do a phased approach.
Kind of similar to the first question. I think you really do need to seek to understand why they're refusing to go back to the office once you've implemented a phased approach. I think, their line manager needs to sit down and have a conversation with them. And I guess if the line manager doesn't feel equipped to have that conversation, get the people team involved, because it is tricky. Like, some people potentially won't have had both vaccines by the time companies are phasing people back into the office.
Yeah, and also, like, there are potentially people that haven't commuted or been on a train or on public transport for a really long time, and so it may be that that individual is concerned or feeling overwhelmed, and potentially having those conversations could put them at ease, and finding out whether there's any way of supporting that in individual.
Yeah, I think you can't underestimate, like, it's been 18 months, maybe
it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Cool. How would you go about making a business case to others within senior management to make employee mental health and well-being a priority? So that's a really, really, really good question.
I think it has to be a priority. I think you need your workforce feeling happy.
Yeah, I think that ultimately how your employees are feeling at work ultimately has an impact on your company performance. There are examples where it's been picked up in the press where there's been toxic work environments, and kind of employees have talked about how that's impacted their mental health at work. And ultimately, when those things are picked up by the press or go viral, it then also impacts your commercial brand and your employer brand. So there are knock-on consequences to this. I think my advice would be, to look at data and look at some examples of what other businesses are doing from a kind of mental health and kind of well-being perspective, and how that's positively impacted those other businesses, and create some kind of case study to present back to the other leaders in the business.
And I think the well-being and mental health initiatives, they don't have to be costly. So a well-being hour that costs nothing
Yeah.
to a business. So I think there is so much that you can do, but it definitely needs to be a priority.
Yeah, another thing could also be is like having like mental health first aiders within the business as
Yeah.
well. So there are like dedicated people across the business for people to go and talk to if they are having issues, etc. So yeah, is that everything? I think.
Yeah, I can't see any more questions there, can you?
Cool. Well, thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. It's been great,
It's been
Jamie.
good. Thanks everyone for joining.
Enjoy the sunshine, everyone.